Why is classical art so good? Let's go.
How do we know that classical art, as opposed to modern art, is so good?
That's a balloon animal. Wait a minute. Also, this one takes talent to make too. Hey, wait. Classical art and they're playing violins? Is this supposed to be the birth of Jesus? And these are angels playing relatively modern instruments? Anachronistic. Song of the Ages, 1881. Arguably this time frame puts it in modern art.
We know it because it was produced within the demanding standards and refined principles of aesthetics, the centuries-old branch of philosophy that measures artistic quality.
What a pretentious fucking hack.
Painting, drawing, and sculpture employ a number of characteristics such as composition, form, color, line, texture, and movement to create beauty.
I'm sorry, what a cucked way to look at art, to have to define it and limit it just by those things. Art can be made having these things in mind, and it's good, it's good to like draw attention to it, but it doesn't have to necessarily follow these standards.
To the experienced eye, and even to the casual viewer, each of these is present in any work of art worthy of being called art. Composition, for instance, is the positioning of objects, elegant and controlled in the hands of a master, or awkward and haphazard in the hands of the inept.
So if you're going to make that argument, awkward and haphazard, would you consider any of Picasso's paintings to be awkward and haphazard? Because, oh boy, there are some wacky ones. Pablo Picasso is generally considered, one of the great artists, right? Like, everybody knows him, right? But some of his art is, holy fuck, what is going on? And to be fair, the guy kind of went cuckoo in his mind later in life, as artists tend to do. Some of his early art was a lot more, I guess, normal. Look at this. This is like almost like a normal painting. This is not the art we associate with Picasso. Yeah, this is the Picasso we know and love. Anyway, let's go. Just draw random lines to prove a point. Pretty much.
Color can be exquisitely balanced and harmonious, or garishly random and unsavory.
This isn't random. You could argue this painting is unsavory, but the art here isn't random. It's very specifically set along a certain color scheme. Red of the walls, the red of the blood. Looks like there's like bubbles going up there. There's like a burnt orange on the ground. There very much is a pattern to this. It's not random.
Or garishly random and unsavory.
You can't convince me this is random. I know this video came 7 years later, but wow, he's fallen off. L ratio.
Movement can be uplifting and dynamic, or static and perverse.
Wait a minute, is this one meant to look like a Christmas tree, but they said it'll look like a butt plug? You didn't even draw lines on this one.
Uplifting and dynamic, or static and perverse.
I don't even know how he quantifies that. Line. Look at that. It's uplifting. It's moving up. It's dynamic. Oh! I have now transcended this into another form of art in the form of a PragerU dunking.
In my previous PragerU video, Why is Modern Art So Bad?, I chronicled how art began to decline beginning from about the 1860s when aesthetic standards were gradually abandoned. Unfortunately for...
Also, this guy's not going to convince me there's not art out there that he wouldn't consider good.
The arts, not everyone agrees. I'm sure you've heard the arguments.
Oh, and a follow-up to that, of all the stuff he considers like weird or trashy art today, 100, 200 years from now, how much of it is going to survive? Like we have the internet now. It's easier to preserve things and, keep pictures of stuff over time, but how much of it is going to be remembered? How much of it are people going to care about 100, 200 years from now? There's going to be so much data and everything, so many pictures, so many art is going to be saved and preserved. Who's going to care about it? 100, 200 years from now, there's going to be so much shit. Only the really good stuff is going to be remembered, really.
Art is simply a reflection of its time. Art isn't about technical proficiency. It's about making you think.
It can be. It can be about both, or neither, really.
Art is a matter of personal taste.
Yes.
There's no such thing as great art or bad art.
Okay, I will say there is bad art. The better question is what makes it good or bad, and that's a lot harder to nail down.
Where do these assumptions come from? For the most part, they are the result of art histories written and taught over the last century, not by artists, but by those in the humanities and social sciences.
One of my favorites here. I just remembered this. Graphic design is my passion. I love it. This is something you could say, this is bad. Is this font papyrus? I don't know. It's red. There's no border. It just sits there and there's a stock image of a frog and a cloudy background. Now, you could say this is bad, but this is something that's so bad, I would argue it circles back around into being good art because there is a point being made here. There's a joke to it. The joke is that this could be made by someone who's allegedly really passionate about this, but is also kind of lazy and kind of bad at it. But I could very easily imagine someone making this intentionally bad to make a joke, which is in and of itself a form of art.
Not having an artist's point of view or experience, let alone artistic talent, these authors and teachers have therefore framed art in the only language.
Okay, yeah, and he's talking about fucking liberal arts colleges and humanities. So much less interesting than the actual argument being made.
Language they understand, meaning and social significance. It's no surprise then that people have come away with the idea that art is simply a reflection of its time. It can be.
The real thing is getting you to think. If the art gets you to think, that's pretty good. And if the art gets you to think, what the fuck was this artist thinking? That's also pretty good. If the effort of analyzing art makes you think, that is also good.
The past didn't care one whit about reflecting their times. They cared primarily about creating art that looked good.
Actually, a lot of the art back then that survived, art that looked good. A lot of this kind of art was commissioned by wealthy patrons. And that's why it survived, because they had the wealth to pay for it and the wealth to take care of it.
Art, by definition, is a visual medium. Therefore, its meaning and ability to make you think are secondary to how it looks. After all, there can be meaning in other creative mediums like literature and music.
These are art too.
But the visual is what uniquely distinguishes art. Therefore, the
Now this is a philosophical discussion about art. I think by most modern means, you're not going to win this one. From the perspective he's arguing from is not a winnable position in modern day. Literature is art. Music is art. All sorts of things can be art. It doesn't have to necessarily be paintings. Now, if you want to talk about paintings and sculpture specifically, I get that. But I don't know. Bringing it up like this is just kind of a red herring. It doesn't even fit.
visual is what most matters. In fact, a great work can and should stand on its own without the viewer knowing anything about its meaning.
That can be impossible, though. What would be a good one? I'm pretty certain if we look at a lot of art of Jesus Christ, if you look at paintings of him, but you have no idea who Jesus Christ was, the art would mean nothing to you. The art wouldn't stand on its own. Okay, this is kind of neat. There's a guy sitting here and there's a boat in the background. What's the significance of it? I don't know. Okay, there he is at the sun. What's the significance? I don't know. Why is there a ring around this guy's head? Is that the sunlight? Oh, you don't know the significance. No, it just looks weird. I would argue it's pretty much impossible in the modern day world for pretty much everyone with internet access at least, to not know about Jesus Christ. It's a piece of context that is often presupposed.
It becomes more about what it means and less about its pure visual experience. It might succeed as, say, journalism or social commentary, but it has failed as art.
What a bullshit definition. I'm sorry. It's such bullshit. It really is.
So, what do we look for to determine quality in art? It is found in the skillful execution of a...
I got a good one for you. Have you heard of this one from Frida Kahlo? The Suicide of Dorothy Hale. I love this painting. I've seen this painting in person. It's here in Arizona at the Phoenix Art Museum. Long story short, there was this kind of wealthy woman, New York City, jumped from a building as an act of suicide, fell to her death. The mother of the suicide victim commissioned Frida Kahlo to make a painting of her. The idea was it was supposed to be like a portrait, but Frida Kahlo was fucking crazy? So Drew, she painted Dorothy Hale jumping to her death. Because that's how Dorothy Hale died. And this is the painting. Yay! I love it. Does this fail as art? Hell no. But the story behind this art makes it so much more interesting than just on its own. Because if I just saw this like normally and didn't know any of the story, I'd be like, well, that's kind of weird. But now you know the story, it's like, oh my god, that's incredible. Yeah, the mother of Dorothy Hale hated the painting. She wanted to destroy it, and her friends and family convinced her not to. And she gave it to a friend of hers for safekeeping. And then eventually the friend died, and then it kind of shuffled around for a while, was kind of disappeared, and then one day an anonymous donor gave it to the Phoenix Art Museum here in Arizona. In fact, I think I have a picture of it somewhere. Look! That's me! Standing next to a Frida Kahlo. I should post this on Instagram. I love this painting so much. Anyway, let's carry on.
A visual medium. For example, in a great oil painting by the 17th century Dutch master Vermeer, the quality is there in the controlled balance of its composition, the harmony of its color, the masterful hand-eye coordination of its brushwork.
I'm getting flashbacks to like my intro level art classes and film classes at college. Oh my god, some of the students, like, shut the fuck up.
When we look more closely at the soft edge between the woman's arm and her sleeve, we can see that it was achieved by Vermeer's delicate application of paint.
Okay, yeah, he put some work into it. So fucking what?
This is the very essence of artistic quality.
Oh god.
And not, by the way, because it looks realistic or photographic, if you will. Realism is simply a stylistic choice.
Okay.
In fact, great art need not even look realistic to be great. It's
yeah, but where are the lines in this one? If I draw lines on this, it's going to look all fucked up.
no wonder that many people believe the myth that photography put an end to classical art, given that they assume that looking photographic was the purpose of a painting. But that was never the goal of the classical artist. Quality of execution was.
Like I said a moment ago, quality of execution? Really? See, this one is bad quality, but I'd argue that in and of itself is what makes it so good.
With each viewing of classical art, our experience of it deepens, while the experience one derives from much of more contemporary art is generally instantaneous, and, like a joke that requires a punchline, is over once one gets it. This is not to say we can't enjoy works of the modern era, but remember, quality.
No, hold on. He's so wrong about that.
While the experience one derives from much of more contemporary art is generally instantaneous, and, like a joke that requires a punchline, is over once one gets it.
Like a joke that requires a punchline is over once one gets it? I hate that. I hate that. You are why I hate art critics, okay? You're why everyone hates art critics. Just because you get an art doesn't necessarily mean you lose enjoyment from it. Like the Frida Kahlo painting, The Suicide of Dorothy Hale. If you like The Suicide of Dorothy Hale and graphic design is my passion, I get it. I love it. I still love it. It's been years and I still love them.
This is not to say we can't enjoy works of the modern era, but remember that quality and taste are different things. Quality is based on developed standards, taste on personal preference. There's one thing great art will never do. It will never make a fool of you. Its level of quality is readily apparent to anyone with eyes to see,
Never make a fool of you?
Independent of its meaning. You might be thoroughly impressed with the work of a cutting-edge artist with its impressive theory, but you have no way of knowing if you're being taken for a sucker.
Hey everyone, editing attack here. So I just noticed that Mr. Florzak makes a pretty severe contradiction here.
But remember that quality and taste are different things. Quality is based on developed standards, taste on personal preference.
So far, so good. We can agree with this, and it's consistent within his own arguments. But Florzak then goes on to say this.
There's one thing great art will never do. It will never make a fool of you. Its level of quality is readily apparent to anyone with eyes to see, independent of its meaning. You might be thoroughly impressed with the work of a cutting-edge artist with its impressive theory, but you have no way of knowing if you're being taken for a sucker.
So on the one hand, we care about quality, measured through objective standards. But when a cutting-edge artist comes along and makes something with impressive theory, you might be being taken for a sucker? How are these two compatible? Self-aware Wolves material aside, the examples that he gives of bad art taking us for a sucker before this example are stuff like balloon animals, or the Christmas tree butt plug, or the bloody mess. But the reasons that he gave for why those were bad had nothing to do with cutting-edge art and theory. This is a completely different argument. Now, I think I know what's up. This PragerU video has chapters. Assumptions about art, what is art, quality of taste. He does a pretty piss poor job defining any of these things. But when he starts taking about art taking you for a sucker, this is the start of a different chapter. So I don't know what happened, but it kind of seems like the end of this conclusion chapter was written kind of differently from the rest of these chapters, and he didn't realize that he was contradicting himself between one line to the next. Maybe should have spent a little more time editing that, I guess.
Much of today's art exposes how coarse and vulgar a society we've become.
How coarse and vulgar a society we've become. Not like ancient Rome, graffitiing the walls with how you had sex with the barmaid here, how you shat here, how women weep because your penis will only enter the backsides of men from now on. Not to mention all the art that depicts literal sexual acts in the city of Pompeii. No, we've become coarse and vulgar and degenerate today. You see, it's a common misconception. It wasn't that we were always like this. No. It was actually third wave feminism and the invention of birth control.
Fortunately, there is an antidote to this. You'll find it in the galleries of great museums all over the world. Ask the security guard. He'll point you in the right direction. I'm Robert Florzak for PragerU.
What?
Fortunately, there's an antidote to this.
That doesn't make sense.
You'll find it in the galleries of great museums all over the world. Ask the security guard. He'll point you in the right direction.
What, the door? The bathroom?
I'm Robert Florzak
That didn't
for
make
PragerU
sense,
University.
Robert.
Mr. Robert, was it? I'm afraid you're the subject. The emotion and lines within your PragerU videos are very lacking, and I find the color to be kind of bland. It's a simple blue and orange. You could have a little more splash, a little more flavor. I'm afraid I'm going to have to give your PragerU videos, they're going to be, I'm going to give them an F. I'm sorry. It's a high F, but let's say 5 out of 10. Really, your arguments were kind of contradictory. You didn't quantify them. I'm afraid the arts artistically left a lot to be desired. It really makes me kind of hungry for someone with a little more passion for what they do, you know? But I'm just not feeling it with your art. All
right, enough of that. Hey everyone, thanks for being patient. I'd like to give a thank you to the January patron backers. ASU Asian Woman, Benjamin Kessler, Boris Lowe, Ian Diaby, Here Comes the Rat, James Paul, Jai Palamo, Jenna Sweet, Lionel, and Mellow Cheddar.